there. That gets it into Washington area by 10:38. So again, a rapid motion across the county there. Could be all the way to Hanover by 10:48, Blue Rapids, or just south of Blue Rapids as it drops a little bit more southeastward. That would be closer to 11:05 on the timing there. So again, that's what we're looking at on that particular cell. Overall, though, as we continue to watch this storm, the hail threat is a little bit smaller on there. You can see that, again, is right up in that same area around Mahaska. That's where we could get anywhere from about $quarter to $half sized hail with that particular storm. And again, the overall trend of this is for it to move toward the southeast. This is the area of rotation that has the greatest area of concern on it. There is a tornado warning for this region. Take a closer look on that. What we have on here is a storm that is rather wrapped up. We're going to have to watch that very closely because it certainly does show what we have over here is a strong straight line wind. And that gust of wind that's headed toward Cuba and Haddam is wrapping up around there. So Mahaska, you're right underneath that. To Haddam, you're right underneath it as well as the circulation is still building in. You need to be taking your tornado precautions at Moroville, maybe even the city of Washington. It's a good idea to be thinking about that rather quickly. I'll show you where the warning box is located. Again, you are in that warning. So right now, it's kind of targeted in that area between Mahaska and Haddam and very, very close to Haddam. It's a fast mover. It'll be to Moroville here fairly shortly and then on toward Washington as well. So Washington County under this tornado warning until 10:45. And there's an additional threat of if you don't get hit by that tornado portion of the storm, the overall complex of storms still has the capability of producing up to 70-mile-per-hour wind. And so there's a lot of threats with this particular storm as it moves through. Again, the range is now getting to Haddam. Don't try to venture out and see it. This is where the circulation is located, tucked away in the rain. In the middle of the dark, relying on a few flashes of lightning, trying to see a circulation that's tucked into the rain, you're not going to see it. There is not a visible thing to go look at right now. This is one that you just have to kind of let the radar be the guide in the dark, as these storms oftentimes can produce these rain-wrapped circulations. It's a rain-wrapped circulation. It is radar indicated at this time. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist when we say radar indicated. We're just relying on radar. But also, look at these bright greens over here on this part of Republic County and southwestern Washington County. That is some very strong wind. Now, the radar beam is coming up all the way from near Alma, so it's not hitting right at the surface where the radar beam reaches it. It's up into the cloud a little bit. But a lot of that high wind is going to come down to the surface. And so we're going to see some really strong wind approaching areas of cloud and southwestern areas of Washington County, Republic County, getting in on that high wind already, but it's going to continue to drop southward. And then wrapping up on the northern end of this is where we're seeing that circulation. We'll switch to another view of that circulation there. You can see it still right there, that red and green together. The radar beam coming up from the southeast. You have this red, which is going away, going that direction, the green, which is coming this way. And again, that's a circulation showing up there. You can't see anything but toward in a way, but that is most certainly an indication of storm circulation at the very least, which can enhance two things. One, as we look, and you can see that corner of your screen, that's going to be looking up at that storm from Clay Center. You see a lot of lightning with this, but this upward moving air kind of circulating at the same time will do two things. Produces the potential for a tornado. Obviously, you've got rotation, but it also can enhance the hail size for just a little bit as well. So that's another part of this storm that we're going to be looking at as we continue to watch it. There's an update of the radar. It is now moving a little bit to the east of Haddam, where the greatest circulation is. This is, again, a good time if you are in Moroville right now to get into your tornado shelter. Hopefully the storm passes by with nothing more than the straight line wind threat, which in and of itself is also a pretty decent risk with this storm. Imagine right now the winds are howling from Haddam to Cuba up to Mahaska as that storm is blowing in on the backside of it with some of the kind of the southwestern part of that circulation with some very strong straight line wind moving southeastwards. You're going to get a strong northwest wind hitting with this thunderstorm. The circulation located a little closer to the Haddam area, moving over toward Moroville. So take your tornado shelter immediately in those locations. The hail continues to follow in with that circulation as well. The hail has to, the radar has to process a little bit to get it. And so it's not a sweep that you just detect the hail. You have to detect the radar and then process the data a little bit. So it's actually lagging behind on these fast-moving 50-mile-per-hour motion storms, it's hard for it to keep up on the location of it. So you can kind of take that and imagine it's probably southeast of there right now where we have that hail, but the hail size there could exceed 1 inch. So we're still looking at that potential of half-dollar-sized hail with the storm as it continues to move off toward the south and east at about 50 miles per hour. So we are looking at a pretty strong storm there. We're getting an update. I don't know if you've got Mike on yet or not, Ryan,
yes.
but if, go ahead and read that update coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. So Topeka NWS continued the tornado warning for Washington until 10:45 tonight.
All right. And what's the location they have on that circulation?
It says capable of producing a tornado located near, forgive my language, Haddam, moving southeast at 30 miles an hour.
Okay, so they're putting it pretty near Haddam then. Okay,
yeah.
And that is moving to the southeast. All right, so on there, again, that storm has that circulation capable of producing the tornado. It is still radar indicated, but it's well within that. Again, putting it near Haddam, between Haddam and Morrowville right now at that leading edge of that circulation, it is embedded in the rain. So again, as mentioned before, you're not going to see it. You're also going to notice one other feature here. Look from here all the way down across there. Notice the arcing shape of that. That is that gust of wind that's rushing forward. In the midst of that gust of wind, these are individual storms an hour ago, and now they're grouping together, and there's still some remnant circulations from when they were individualized storm here and there. Now that they're turning into a line of storms kind of all grouped together, there's still a little bit of it circulating. And that's what we're seeing. Normally, lines of thunderstorms don't spin well because they're all connected together. But while they're kind of going through that morphing phase from individualized on over into a squall line, or in this case, what we call a bow echo of kind of a line of storms extending out ahead of it, you can still get these embedded circulations, and that's certainly what we're seeing there. And as we look at the circulation there, it is still showing up right there. I'd say it's right now between Haddam and Morrowville, just to the northwest of Morrowville is where the radar indicated circulation is at its greatest, but this is the region. Now, you also see this bright green from Agenda to Haddam. This is another threat with this, is that gust of wind, that straight line wind that is rushing out of that thunderstorm, moving toward the southeast. So if you're in Clifton and Clyde, on over toward Lynn, even down toward Morganville, you're going to get hit by this strong straight line wind. And so there's also the threat of up to 70-mile-per-hour straight line wind on the areas that don't get into that thunderstorm portion of it that is capable of producing a tornado. So again, there's numerous severe weather threats with this storm.
Hey, Matt,
so we will continue to watch for that. Yeah,
we got one more update for you. We got a note here that the strongest rotation is now 7 miles northwest of Morrowville, and the rotation itself has broadened, but the inflow to the storm should be persisting and could tighten up shortly.
Okay, so, and that's right where we were looking at right here. That would put it right in that area. And again, it has kind of, when they mean by broaden it, it's opened up a little bit wider. And that doesn't mean it's worse. Actually, it means it's a little less intense because it's that focused rotation that is the most alarming. You can have really broad, wide-scale circulation, and that's a more difficult setup to produce a tornado. So when the National Weather Service, as we're seeing on radar as well, is seeing this opening up or broadening out of the circulation, that is a positive sign that we may not have as great of a tornado risk at that moment, but as they pointed out, the conditions are still favorable, that it could just be going through a widening out, and then it could certainly contract and tighten back up again. That's why the National Weather Service is continuing that tornado warning. As that storm approaches Morrowville, you can still see it's inched a little bit farther east. Circulation is still there. We have to watch for where these brighter colors come in, whether or not something tries to tighten up there. That would put it north of Morrowville by maybe a mile or two, and northwest of Washington by just a couple of miles. So again, now Washington included in that. And there again is just a strong straight line wind racing now into west central Washington County, southeastern Republic County. I almost put it into the northeastern corner of cloud here shortly, those brightest of the greens. This is the strong northwest wind that is just heading and rushing its way down through Washington County. There you have this other direction of the wind, completely opposite direction. That's allowing that little rotation of the thunderstorm. And again, that is approaching Washington. If you are in Morrowville, you need to stay in your tornado shelter for a little while longer. Haddam, the circulation has passed you as well as Mahaska. You're clear of any tornado risk, but there's still some severe weather ongoing during that time period. And so this will continue to move toward the east-southeast. Washington, you need to be getting in your tornado shelter immediately as the storm is getting closer and closer to your location. And again, as I mentioned before, if you're in those locations and you see the storm coming, this is not the kind of storm where you get out on the front porch and watch it come in. It is not that type of storm that you're going to see anything more than the lightning and the cloud. But as it gets a little bit closer, it is going to obscure any amount of that circulation, because the circulation is embedded within the rainfall. Maybe near Washington on the leading edge of the rainfall, but in the night sky, curtained by rain behind it, you're not going to see much coming out of that. And unfortunately, that is really going to make it difficult for us to get any kind of verification that we have a confirmed tornado. A lot of times we look for that information coming in. It may not come in that way at this time. We just have to kind of use the radar as the tool that it is, which is detecting the motions within that thunderstorm, and kind of go with that on the tornado potential out of this, because it certainly has that circulation. You kind of see even in the precipitation how there's that little circulation showing up right there northwest of Washington. So again, in Washington, Morrowville, you need to be in tornado shelter right now. Tornado sheltering, you're okay for Haddam and Mahaska. It is now past you, but again, stay in tornado shelter still at Morrowville. Get into your tornado shelter at Washington. And of course, Lynn, you're a little bit farther south, but if you're between Washington and Lynn, we'd include all those areas in that as that tornado warning continues. We'll put the warning box up there for you. You can see it is headed toward that area of Washington, maybe Lynn on the south end, but I think more toward the city of Washington and Morrowville. You have another update, Ryan?
Yes, we do. Topeka continued the severe thunderstorm warning. Considerable headline right there. Winds 70 miles an hour. Hail 1.25 inches for Clay, Cloud, Ottawa, Republic, and Washington counties until 11 o'clock tonight.
When you said, tell me again that hail size on there.
1.25 inches.
1.25, okay. All right, so definitely looking at that. I think got something advancing here on me. I want to show you this one. Okay, there's a severe thunderstorm watch that we have. That one will continue to go until 5 o'clock in the morning on that one. There's a look at the prolific lightning with this thunderstorm. And as we look at the overall severe weather risk, this was the tornado warning that we've been talking about. What the extension of that severe thunderstorm warning, that's for Cloud, Clay, parts of Washington County as well, kind of that whole arcing line that we've been talking about, still with 70-mile-per-hour wind and half-dollar size hail as a possibility with that storm. The tornado warning goes until 10:45, so we are wrapping up our normal broadcast time at this time. We're going to continue on. We'll get you to regular programming when we deem that the conditions are safe. And a lot of times we'll hear from people who maybe live into Topeka and Manhattan, and you look all the way up here and think, well, that's so far away. Is that possibly our local area? Yes, we are the local station for Washington County, and we're going to treat everybody the same way we do. It doesn't matter how far away you live from the capital city, and it doesn't matter how many neighbors you have. If you're in danger, we want to make sure that we stay on air and keep you covered. So we will get you back to any regular programming as soon as it's safe to do so. But we have a few thousand of our viewers in line of this dangerous circulation moving through central Washington County. I know the National Weather Service just put out an update on that too. Ryan, was there any new data that's coming in from that?
So from the tornado warning specifically, we have an update. It's continuing for Washington until 10:45 tonight, and that's that severe thunderstorm capable of producing that tornado. And they also sent out a message saying that Concordia reported a gust of 63 knots. So that wind damage is definitely coming through.
63 knots is closing in on 80 miles per hour, 75, 80 miles per hour. Just so that's pretty significant. Probably here in just a minute they'll do that conversion. I'd have to do it in my head. You may want to grab a calculator and do that one for you. I'm pretty sure that's over 75 miles per hour though. That's getting pretty strong, and that is again the threat with this thunderstorm. Here's the circulation as it approaches Washington. So again, Morrowville, you're into the high wind, and some of these winds could be 70 to 80, the way it's sounding. If the Concordia reported 63 knots, that is certainly going to be over 70.
Almost 73.
73, okay, so pretty close. That 73-mile-per-hour wind being clocked at Concordia, and now we've got this, again, 70 to 80 range that we're going to have to put this on. That may not have been the peak of it. I'd say that some of the strongest wind on radar is looking like it's between Morrowville and maybe down toward the Clifton area. But this, again, is where you see circulation approaching Washington. Stay in your tornado shelter. Be ready for a damaging wind event across western areas of Washington County. That'll move southward into northern Clay County as well. So we'll continue to watch that. There's some of your, the velocity. The gate-to-gate shear is a little bit, maybe not as, that would be the two different directions side by side. But this is going to be the key number there. And remember, I mentioned earlier, the radar beam is not at the bottom of the thunderstorm when you're this far away from the radar site. So will 80-mile-per-hour winds that are rushing through the base of the thunderstorm get down to the ground level? That's a question that is hard to pin down, but we just got a report that it hit 73 at Concordia. So it argues for, yeah, it's a possibility. And so we get these 80-plus winds, and we talked about it all through the day today. This was the main threat, is for the severe straight-line wind threat on that as well. So there's also still the possibility for some hail. This has been a concern with this storm. You can see that approaching as well. This circulation, as I mentioned earlier, just two things. It produces the chance for a tornado, but it also continues to hold on to the hail threat as long as there's that circulation. When the circulation goes away, the hail threat is going to diminish as well as the tornado threat, but the severe straight line wind threat will continue to be the dominant threat. So if you're farther down to the south and east from these areas, and we kind of put maybe a perspective on here. So again, maybe you live farther to the south and east over a larger part of our viewing area. We've got one lone cell that's still producing both circulation and hail. Once that circulation kind of winds down and goes away, what we're really looking at is this larger complex of thunderstorms producing significant wind rushing through the area. Because of that, the National Weather Service has put the entire area under a severe thunderstorm watch. Now, the warnings, a little bit more limited still over Nebraska. There's that larger warning for up to 70-mile-per-hour wind, possibly 70 to 80, the way things are kind of shaping out. There's your tornado warning for Washington. Again, stay in your tornado shelter in the city of Washington. This storm will continue to move to the southeast at about 45 to 50 miles per hour. So fast motion on this one as well. So we'll take a closer view into there, up into our northwestern counties. So you can see that we'll put the radar back on. I'll put a track on this for you as it's moving to the southeast at about 45 miles per hour. To do a little bit of a, drag that down just a little bit. We'll get it there. Actually we'll do a track on it for you. Put it about 50 miles per hour on here. And as we go from about Washington, where that circulation is, if it continues at 50 miles per hour, that's at lower 40s there on a kind of a conservative thing. It would get there maybe as late as 10:40 to Washington, pretty much right now. Barnes by 10:57, Blue Rapids by 11:13. Earlier, we showed you a slightly faster motion and had it to Blue Rapids by 11:05. So think about that 11:05 to 11:10 into the Blue Rapids area, maybe about 11:20 to 11:30 at Frankfort.
Hey, we got a
so
quick
again, very
update for
fast
you,
motion
Matt.
there. Good, Ryan?
Sorry to interrupt. We got two areas of strong rotation being noted by the Weather Service in Washington County. One near Washington itself, and a second 5 miles southeast of Hollenberg.
Okay, so that one up here, right on that edge. So it looks like there are those two areas of circulation. So again, stay in your tornado shelter at Washington. The storm is still probably producing some pretty significant wind around Morrowville, but the circulation is now to your east. So between Washington and Hollenberg, as well as Washington itself, stay in your tornado shelter, and then we'll add in areas to the south and east toward Barnes that you'll need to be very quickly getting into a tornado shelter if this continues to hold on with that circulation. This is the same storm that at the beginning of our broadcast, we did have on this particular one, we had the tornado warning over Thayer County, Nebraska, and this circulation has continued. So from Lynn to Washington, still in that tornado warning, particularly Washington and just north of Washington is where the two areas of circulation are focused. As this moves to the east-southeast, we're going to be putting areas of southeastern Washington County kind of in the heads-up zone right now. You're not in a tornado warning right now in that southeastern part of the county or even southwestern Marshall County, but if this circulation continues at the pace it's going, it's not all that long out into the future before it gets in there. This tornado warning is set to expire here in just a couple minutes at 10:45, about 4.5 minutes from now. And so as that continues to move to the southeast, the National Weather Service will be determining what the next, where to go. And there it is. Tornado warning just now getting issued for Marshall County and Washington County until 11:15. So there's your new warning. It'll be popping up here shortly. You'll see the red box appear here momentarily as it hopefully will appear there.
Yeah, and Matt, that
there it
storm
is.
is moving at 55 miles an hour with hail at about 3/4 of an inch.
Okay, so the hail size is diminishing, but the tornado threat is continuing, and it is starting to take a turn a little bit more eastward. And so Marysville was included in this as well. So Marysville to Blue Rapids, Barnes, Washington, all those locations will be under that tornado warning until 11:15 as we continue to watch this storm moving to the east. There we'll put. I'll put the velocity back on there, and I'm going to have to zoom out just a little bit with that very fast motion on there, just so that we can get from this area a track of a time of arrival at a 55 mile per hour speed. So the reason that Marysville was included was for this circulation up here. So I'm going to put it kind of in the halfway point between those two areas of circulation and put it at about 55 miles per hour, and that gets it all the way, get rid of that one right there. So that gets to Marysville at 11:02. Frankfurt by 11:17, so it's actually got a little bit faster motion, gets it into Frankfurt a bit earlier. Vermilion by 11:26, and on to Seneca just after 11:30. So again, that's the kind of the area of motion over our northern counties. In addition, all of this bright green you see, which is now getting very close to the northern end of Clay Center, is in a severe thunderstorm warning box that includes winds up to 70 miles per hour. So again, we have strong straight line wind on the western part of this storm. It's kind of a different setup. A lot of these storms, we look for that southwestern corner for the tornado circulation. This one is more on the leading edge of it. There's two areas of rotation. I'm getting a little bit more concerned of that particular one to the north. That one looks to maybe be a little bit more concerning on there as we watch that particular cell up there in areas of northern Washington County at this time. So two areas of circulation, one almost directly over Washington. Stay in your tornado shelter for a little while longer in Washington. And the other one about 15 miles west-northwest of Marysville, moving east, southeast.